Okay, Centene. That's the number one topic, and I thank you for coming on to explain exactly what was going on. Becky Corey, state representative, was with me yesterday. She's been a trooper in this one, fighting for the people of the state of Mississippi, and she says her thoughts was, is there a reason to hold this thing up as far as renewing the contract? It's beyond the scope of me knowing exactly what's going to happen with that one. But your thoughts on this, and exactly how did you guys arrive at some type of negotiation or settlement?
Sure. Yeah, so a little bit of background. Right when I took office as state auditor, the Ohio office of the state auditor produced this study, as far as we know, is the first of its kind in the country, that looked at pharmacy benefit managers. And just a short definition for your audience out there, PBMs are these big companies, and what they do is they're a middleman in between your retail pharmacy and your health plan. So if you walk in and you want to fill a prescription and you go to your retail pharmacy, you fill the prescription, the retail pharmacy is going to take your copay, but they're also going to have to get reimbursed for the rest of the cost of that drug. They're going to bill a PBM, and then the PBM ideally is going to bill your health insurance, and then the money's going to flow that way. And that's how it was supposed to work for Medicaid too. When we looked at the Ohio State Auditor report, we realized that they had discovered that some of the PBMs had likely overbilled, overcharged, maybe even kept some additional money that they were not allowed to keep under their contract. So my first question is, well, if it's happening in Ohio, is it happening in Mississippi? So we started working on this, and eventually we entered into an agreement with the exact data analysts who did the analysis in Ohio. We kicked that off in early 2019, and it led us to this point right here.
Were there any other states beside Ohio and Mississippi? Because they operate in quite a few states.
They do. We were the first movers. Ohio was the lead dog on this. We came in right behind them, and now many other states have jumped in because, like you said, these PBMs are operating inside Medicaid programs. They're operating for state health plans, so plans that serve government employees. So a lot of states, maybe all states, use some version of this, and now they're all looking, or a bunch of them are.
It is Shad White, state auditor. Shad, did we ever get to litigation, actual formal litigation? We just settled out. They settled out.
Correct.
Was that, it's hard to figure this out, was that because the deadline or the renewal was coming up? Or
No, I don't think so. That's really a question for the attorneys, but I'll tell you my sense of it. My sense of it is that Ohio moves first, right? Their state auditor produces this report. The guy who was state auditor actually ran for attorney general and got elected, and then he went and filed litigation against Centene on behalf, or basically as a result of this study that they had done. So they're in litigation, and that's when we came along behind. We started looking at the transactions in Mississippi, and I think the judgment call was probably, okay, well, do we want to file our own litigation and start racking up expenses, or do we want to let Ohio litigate and then try to jump in when a settlement discussion starts and then get some money back for the state of Mississippi?
So we get 55.5. That's accurate?
Correct. Yep.
Does it come in one lump sum, or their payments?
The way the settlement structure reads to me is it's going to come in two payments.
First one will be when?
I'm not sure, actually. So, what we know right now is
but
just...
there's got to be some kind of a timetable on that.
Right. So there is a timetable and a structure, and I think that, at some point, if they don't make good on the payments, then there's some recourse that the Attorney General's office can take, but that's all sort of structured in the settlement agreement. Main thing to me is the dollar total, $55 million. You think about Ohio. Ohio got $88 million, but their population is 4 times what ours is. Their prescription drug spend is massive. So I think 55 is a fair settlement for the state of Mississippi, given what our drug spend is here.
Okay, that's fine and good. And I'm not sure when that second payment's coming in, but I guess there would be a timetable on that also.
Well, I just mean the 55 would be split into 2.
Right. That's the second part of that 55. And it's fine and good that we got the money, but were there any corrective demands in there also?
So the settlement agreement kind of discusses this, and it says that Involve, which is the PBM owned by Centene, that is going to basically no longer be a PBM, that they've got to transform that into some sort of administrative function. And here's the issue that is going to be corrected, I think, as a result of this. The way we were finding the overpayments is Involve, which is owned by Centene. It's a PBM owned by Centene.
Wait a minute. Before we lose, is that changing? Is that going to be still
No, I don't think they're going to sell Involve. I think that they're changing the structure of it, basically.
Yeah, but that's just hiding things in a way, isn't it?
Well, here's the good thing, and I don't think it's going to be easy for them to hide in the same way that they are. They know that we're looking now. So for a period of years, basically, these overpayments, overbilling is happening between subunits of Centene.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, the assumption is, oh well, nobody is getting a look at these payments or this overbilling that's happening because it's happening all internally inside Centene. Well, now they know that we have access to that and we're looking at it. The reason that we have access to it is state auditors around the country have the legal right to go get those documents, and they know that we're looking now. So my thought is, and my hope is that they've agreed to this settlement, right? They've paid the state of Mississippi back what we're owed, and they understand that they're on notice now that we're able to see these transactions.
I got to tell you, it's almost like people in prison who have a lot of time to do the nefarious things and be very, very creative. And I would think most of this audience are screaming at me, we don't trust them in the future. They're going to find a way to do this.
Yep.
Wouldn't, as Attorney General and State Auditor, you look at this and say, look, it is just not workable in the private sector and certainly not in the public sector for you guys to be handling both of those at the same time, to set the prices and also be handling it. It's just a conflict of interest, a conflict of doing business the right way, and there should be a different way on this one.
Yeah,
is that a job for the governor or for the contract itself? Or
I think so. Bear in mind, PBMs are these massive, big corporations, and they set up this business model, and the business model basically is being a middleman, right? And the way you're describing it raises these big concerns of, okay, well, can you own a PBM and own an MCO and be a big umbrella company and not have a conflict and not have these fundamental issues? Here's the perspective I take as state auditor. If there is something going wrong, if they are overbilling or they're keeping more money than they should or whatever it is, my job is to find it. My job is to go out there, identify the amount of money, and get it back. The bigger questions of, okay, should PBMs exist at all? That's such a massive question for the country that I honestly think that the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is going to have to think about it. Attorneys general around the country are going to have to think about it. As a legislature and a governor, we could make that decision. We don't have to wait on the federal government, could we? I mean, we could bring it back in-house. We could take the PBM and just say that part of it is going to be handled by, let's say, Medicaid. That's basically a trade-off and decision that Medicaid is going to have to make, I think. All these tons of Medicaids, maybe all of them around the country, are contracting with PBMs or MCOs or whatever it may be. And now that we're seeing all this come out for the first time, we're seeing these big settlements. We're seeing people question the role of the middleman. Now I think all the Medicaid programs around the country are going to have to take a step back and say, okay, is this worth it?
When it's billions and billions of dollars, and again they made $111 billion, give or take a few billion from last year, then they're going to find creative ways to do this one way or the other. We'll talk more about this one. And
sure.
You do offer recommendations through the state auditor's office on several things when you come back in, don't you? Again, are you going to offer any recommendations on this one as far as what the state or the state legislature should look at?
So really, I think my role going forward is going to be to continue to look at more PBMs. I mean,
which means they're going to make it harder for you to find.
That's absolutely true. But you know what? I'm not afraid to step up and take on the challenge and these big companies.
So you got to get as creative as they